You know the dishes are there. You know the clothes are on the chair. You know that corner has been waiting for weeks, maybe longer. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you know you should do something about it. You have known for a while. The strange part is not that you do not see it. You see it every day. You walk past it, you glance at it, and then you look away. Not because you do not care, because you care. And somehow that makes it harder. This is the psychology of people who never clean their house. Not people who clean sometimes and fall behind. People who look at a messy home and feel something heavier than mess, and still cannot begin. By the end of this, you will understand exactly why that happens, why you can see the mess every single day and still not move toward it, and you will stop calling it laziness, because you will finally have the real name for it. Most people look at a messy home and see a character flaw, a lack of discipline, someone who simply does not try hard enough. But the psychology of people who never clean their house points somewhere else. Their nervous system is running out of room, and their brain genuinely cannot find where to start. Here is what actually happens when you stand in the middle of a messy room and try to begin. Cleaning is not one task. It is 100 small decisions happening at once. Where do I start? The dishes or the floor? That pile of clothes? Where does it go? That thing on the counter that has no place? What do I even do with it? Your brain tries to hold all of it at the same time, treats all of it as equally urgent, and then does what any overloaded system does. It stops. This is part of what researchers call executive dysfunction, not a lack of will, but a breakdown in the system that puts actions in order. The brain needs a clear first step. When everything looks equally urgent, it cannot find one. So you pick up a jacket, notice a book, carry the book somewhere, find a mug, and 20 minutes later the jacket is still on the floor, and you are standing in the kitchen with no idea how you got there. That is not you being ridiculous. That is a brain holding too many open loops and unable to close a single one. But executive dysfunction is only half of why some people never clean their house. Keep that word in mind. Half. Because the second half is the part that actually keeps you stuck. It is what happens after the failed attempt. After you sit down, look at the room, and think, I cannot even do this. That thought is where the real damage begins. Watch how small it is. You walk into the kitchen, you see the dishes. For a second, you think about starting. Then something shifts. Not quite a decision, more like a door quietly closing. You turn around, you go back to the couch, and the dishes are not the worst part. The worst part is the sentence that follows you out of the room, because the mess does not stay a mess. Over time, it becomes evidence. The dishes are not just dishes anymore. The floor is not just a floor. They turn into a quiet, daily argument that something is wrong with you. You stop seeing a room that needs cleaning and start seeing proof of who you are. This is the shame loop, and it is the real reason some people never clean their house. The mess grows. The shame grows with it. And because the shame grows, looking gets harder. So you look away, which lets the mess grow more. The loop closes, and from the inside there is no obvious door out. And here is the part that explains the look away from the very beginning. You care too much. That is exactly why you avoid looking at it. People who genuinely do not care about their space do not feel any of this. They walk past the mess and feel nothing. But the ones caught in the loop feel it every time. Every glance is a small verdict. And eventually, they stop looking. Not because they gave up, but because looking hurts. There is still another layer underneath this, and it is the one almost nobody talks about. For some people, cleaning was never just cleaning. It was the sound of a parent's voice coming down the hallway, the flash of criticism before anyone even reached the door, the sense that the state of your room said something about whether you were good enough, when tidiness was taught through punishment instead of example, when a messy floor meant you were failing, not just untidy. The nervous system learned something it never fully unlearned. That cleaning is not maintenance. It is a performance with a judge attached. And performing, when you are already exhausted and already ashamed, is close to impossible. So the grown version of that child does not procrastinate on cleaning. They freeze. Not laziness, freeze. Freeze is not a character flaw. It is the third option your nervous system reaches for when fight and flight are off the table. The body's oldest way of saying, if I cannot win and I cannot run, I will go still and wait. It is a protection response that outlived the threat that built it. The body once learned to go quiet when the environment felt dangerous. The messy home still registers as danger. So the body still goes still in front of a sink, of all places. This is also what depression looks like when it goes quiet. Not always tears, not the darkness people picture. Sometimes it is a sink full of dishes that have sat for a week. Sometimes it is a floor you keep meaning to sweep, a pile that keeps climbing, and a tiredness that sleep does not touch. Because the exhaustion is not in your body. It is in the part of you that has been managing shame for a very long time. Depression takes the capacity for maintenance before it takes almost anything else. And then, the cruel part. The mess it leaves behind feeds the depression. The messy home becomes a witness to how far things slipped. And every time you walk past it, it says something. What it says is never kind. And here is why the home, specifically, is so often the first thing to fall. It asks quietly. Work asks loudly. People ask loudly. Bills, messages, deadlines, obligations. They all demand something from you, with a date attached and a consequence behind it. But your room waits. The dishes wait. The laundry waits. Nothing about a messy home sends you a reminder or raises its voice. So when your capacity is already gone, the quietest thing in your life becomes the easiest thing to let go of. Not because it matters least, because it complains least. Your home is not proof of your worth. It is evidence of your capacity, and capacity is not fixed. It runs low, drained by 100 things that have nothing to do with dishes or floors. It can come back too, but never through shame. Shame has never once cleaned a room. So go back to the thing you walk past every day. The pile, the sink, the corner that has been waiting for weeks. You were never looking away because you stopped caring. You were looking away because some part of you already knew that looking would cost something. A verdict, a memory, a reminder of how full everything already is. That is the why you came here for, not laziness. A brain that could not find a way in. A shame loop that punished every attempt. A nervous system still bracing against a threat that left years ago. The messy home did not appear because you stopped caring. It appeared because everything else was already full, and the home was the first thing quiet enough to let go. Until it stops being quiet. A messy home does not mean you do not care. Sometimes it means you have been carrying too much for too long.